Hey guys, it's Adam Panisi. I wanted to tell you about how I turned $6,500 on a mentor and how they taught me how to do property development deals using none of my own money. I was just seeing somebody teaching people how to buy property, and their first step was to save a deposit. Now, I'm not sure if you know the latest statistics, but they are that you will save a deposit, or it will take you between 10 to 15 years to save a deposit for a typical house in one of the major capital cities. Now, I'm not sure about you, but when I was 22 and even now, I don't want to think about spending the next 10 to 15 years saving a measly deposit for one property, let alone trying to pay it off. I'll pay off the balance, 80% of that. So if you don't want to save, or you don't want to wait 10 or 15 years to save a deposit for a property, you're going to have to do something different that nobody else is doing, or only a select few people are doing. The first one is to get educated. So know exactly what you need to do differently from the rest of the crowd. Now, doing something differently isn't looking on realestate.com. It's not saving a deposit for 15 years. By the time 15 years comes around, those same properties could have easily doubled in value. So if you wait the next 15 years, you've got risk that the market's going to keep increasing at a staggering rate, and you are going to be left behind. Now, the wealth divide has moved even further over the last 12 to 18 months as a result of COVID and the property boom off the back of that. So those people, if you already own property, chances are you've done really well over the last 18 months. It really didn't matter where you actually own property. Pretty much everything has gone up in value. So if you already own property, you're ahead of the game. If it's your own property, you've got to sell to then buy, or you've got to refinance. But a lot of people have got equity in their properties right now. So if you don't already own property, you're now getting left behind everybody else. So hurry up and get into the property market. But do not do it at a time where the property market is booming and you're coming in at the peak of the market. So now take note of where the property cycle is. There's a lot of different free resources to determine, or to tell you, to give you a guide on where the property market's sitting. There's going to be a huge amount of growth, particularly in suburbs in Queensland, and the entry-level pricing is so much less. So that aside, doing property development, it actually doesn't matter whether the market is flat or whether it's increasing or even whether it's dipping. Now, property development, you manufacture your own growth. So you're not waiting 10 years to be the effect of the market and hopefully that property doubles in value. You're out there, you're being active, and you're actually adding value into the property. So what you want to do is you need to get educated. You need to learn the techniques, the skills that other people in the market don't have. And then once you're educated, you need to go out there and start looking for development sites where you can manufacture your own growth or your own equity in. Now, if you don't already have the money to start, you're going to have to find a creative way of getting it. So creative ways of getting it, they might include personal loans, credit cards with cash advances, or finding investors or somebody else to give you the money. Now, that's assuming you buy the property outright, or you actually settle on the property. So that's creative ways to get money to actually then settle the property and or develop it. You don't necessarily need to buy the property or settle it at all to make money in property development. You can just secure a property. That means putting it under control, but not actually owning it, not settling on it. You can secure a property and then add value to that property by getting a development approval or doing a paper shuffle. And paper shuffle is really the development approval, or doing some concept plans or whatever it may be to add value, and then on sell that option contract or that contract to somebody else who's going to pay you a premium because you've gone out there and you've seen something that this first buyer hasn't seen. Now, in addition to that, you can just flick a property on by, first of all, getting it under market value by a couple of $100,000, which is not that hard to do. Getting a property a couple of $100,000 under market value and then flipping it to somebody else on the open retail market. You can make yourself a couple of $100,000 by doing that. It's not uncommon to be able to do that in a 6 or 12 month window. That is very common as long as you put in the time. Now, the time is only a couple of hours of work a week once you know what to do. You could easily do that in a 6 to 12 month time. That 200 grand could then be your deposit, and you might decide to go and do a property development use your own money after you've just made it, and then you chip in the deposit. You could do that in 1 year, 2 years. I mean, even if it took you 2 years to make a couple of $100,000 as a deposit, most people, if they're lucky, will save that in 10 to 15 years, which is about what the deposit saving rate is. So you can literally speed that up by 5 or 10-fold, if not more. So it's an opportunity that I saw 11 years ago to be able to accelerate your wealth, get into property, and make sure that when the next boom comes, or if this current one continues, that you're riding that boom that all these other people that own property, they already are riding. People have made so much money just by sitting on property in the last 12 to 18 months. You need to be a part of that. If you have owned 10 or 20 properties, imagine your growth or your wealth owning that many properties versus owning maybe 1 or 2, or even if you own 0, you're well and truly going backwards and getting left behind. So thanks for watching. Hope you've gotten a lot of value out of this. Please like and subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.